Hi and welcome back to step 5 of this tutorial. Now, step 5 will be a longer one because we have to implement way more features. We're going to be adding the database connection basically to the API that we have been using for now for the users. So step by step, we're going to import MongoDB. We're going to make a test route, etc. Now, before we even start, of course, what you need, and most of you must have already because of the previous exercises, is of course a online Mongo account. So I have one up and running. This is an online Mongo account. I have a login tutorial database set up and users. Users at the moment is empty. I will be registering data into it later on. Now, to connect, you need something from here as well. Again, most of you have that, but I will click on database, click on connect to your application. You need this URL. As you will see, you need to fill in your password and username. My cluster is called cluster 0, so that is correct. But these are the three most important identifications. And of course, this one is generated for you. This is unique to yours. So do not type over my URL. It doesn't even work. But try to find your own in the database itself. Try to follow the getting started guide. Copy this at the moment as a whole. And I'm going to paste it here off screen inside a text file. So I have it for later. Perfect. Let's go to the code. We are working in this index.js. Again, the server is still running, so I'm going to be stopping it for now because I have way too much to do, and I need my screen space, especially because I'm working in such a huge font specifically for you guys. Now, a couple of things we're going to be learning. We're going to be adding MongoDB just as we have done with the board game API. So if you want to find that on my playlist, that is still available. At some point, I'm creating a full-blown board game API where you can get all the board games, get one board game, and save a board game. So basically, the things that we need. We are reading one user here with the login. We are saving a user with register. So how do we start? Well, we're going to open our terminal again. Clear it, and we're going to install the MongoDB package. So npm install MongoDB. That allows us to actually add MongoDB at the top of our list here. So const Mongo, we're going to be using the Mongo client. From require. Again, this is all in the getting started from MongoDB. I'm doing it by heart by now because looking at documentation during a tutorial is quite boring to look at. Now, the next part that we are going to be using, we are going to be making a client, and that's where we need the URL. Now, I'm going to pass it in here for now. Again, const URL equals, and then I'm going to copy paste it from off screen and paste it in here. Now there's one major issue with this, is that this URL is code, which when we commit it to GitHub will be seen by everyone. So if I type here my actual username and my actual password, people have the public URL to my database, which is not really great. So let's see how we can fix this. We are going to be using .env, which is a package that allows us, not warp, that allows us to load in variables from an .env file, a file you should not submit to GitHub secretly, and then load them into process.environment. Now, you can go to the npm.js repository and go to .env. As you see, it's quite well used. Weekly downloads over 27 million. So we're going to add one download more to that by going to our code. I'm going to be installing the package, npm install .env. When we install it, we only need to do one thing. And if we go to the documentation again, you should only do require.env.config. And that means that your file.env, which contains such things as keys, usernames, password, it should automatically load them into process.env. So let's see how that works. We only need to do require .env, which is the package, and we're going to execute a function called config. And that's it. It's that simple. Now we are loading in our .env file. But hey, wait a minute, sir. We don't have a .env file. Well, then we're going to make it. So in backend, we're going to add a new file, .env. And this is just a regular text file. So if I'm going to copy paste my URL from here. And I don't think that I need brackets. Just wanted to verify that. I do mostly final URL. And then this is the final URL. Now off screen, I'm going to be changing these username and password to my actual URL, but I can also do like port, for example. I can do some login user systems to other services that people should not be able to see. I can do username, I can do password, etc., etc. So again, I'm going to be using this final URL. This is the one you should be using, well, the one you got from your Mongo database, and fill in your username and password. So I'm going to switch over to here, and I'm going to create a Mongo client that I can be using throughout my application, the one you're used to. Create Mongo client. And it's going to be called const client equals new Mongo client. And what do we have to pass in? The URL. So instead of this variable URL, which everybody can see, I'm going to delete that because nobody wants to see my contact details. And I'm going to be using process.env, again, the environment variables, final URL. And this variable will be filled in thanks to this statement. And that's it. So I'm now going to change my username and password off screen, and we'll continue by making a very first test route, which is one we're going to be doing because the exercise asks us. We're going to make a test route to check your connection details. Always very easy to do to make sure that everything is up and running. All right, every secret has been filled in, and now we're going to make our test route. So again, I'm going to be removing our terminal for now. App.get, it's a very easy route called test Mongo. We're going to be using the same setup, rec res arrow function block. So again, now a very basic board game. I'm going to take the code from the board game API, but you can use something else. This is, let me check, this is something basic. Something went wrong, close. Again, I am getting board games here from session 5, which is a different one, but I would recommend to actually have one user prepped. So if we go to Mongo, if you go to our database and our collection, to make sure that your specific login tutorial here has actually a user. So let's say username, Mike D, plus add fields. Let's do email, Mike at test.be, and a password. Let's just, again, keep it encrypted for now. Test 1, 2, 3, 4. Insert. Now we have one user. So I'm going to be testing this one. So that means our database is called login tutorial in my case, and users is our collection. So let's go. Our database is called login tutorial, and our collection is called users. I'm going to get all of them. I'm going to make an array from it. Users. Retrieve the users. Again, make sure your comments are up to date. And send back the users. That's it. Again, pause here. Make sure you have this function. Again, we're going to test if it works, but again, this is the basics we should have. So let's open up Postman and test this out. All right, I have launched my server here, NodeMon, so it's actually working. Then I'm opening up Postman, and I have one route here called Mongo test. So I'm just going to call local test 3000, which is my server here, and I'm going to call the actual endpoint test Mongo. And I get, as you can see, my ID test 1, 2, 3, 4. So I am getting all the details from Mongo as it should. So now we can continue with the actual solution that we want to implement. So again, I am working from the board game API because depending on how much you work with Mongo, you know them by heart, the functions, or you don't. So again, what we have in the register function here, checking, it's okay. Save the users to an array. That's what we are going to change because we're not going to be using an array anymore. So I am going to lower this. And you know what? I'm going to be copy pasting this framework. So test Mongo, very good start because it has the try catch finally. I've explained this, what the build up into this is in a previous tutorial. So again, make sure your function is asynchronous, so you can use the await keyword at least. The push, we are going to, for now, comment out. When everything is okay, send back the data with the response. That is our message here. We're going to copy paste this in here. And we're going to add a status as well. Status. When something is saved, we mostly use status 201. 200 is everything is okay, and 201 is everything has been updated or saved. So 201 and send saved, the user has been saved. All right. We have this one. And then instead of retrieving, we are going to be saving something. So I am going to be still getting the database. I'm going to be getting the users, but I'm not going to use the find keyword. Now I am going to do another function, namely insert into the database. And you do that by just say const inserted user. And we can give that to the response as well, so people actually have the object of the user, which is a common use case. You save something, you get back the database object. And what are we going to save? Let me check. Rec body. We still need to prepare the object. We can do that in a separate variable. Prep the variable. So const user equals, and then of course do username rec body.username, and of course I'm going to be using the email and the password. We do not give it an ID. That's something that Mongo does by itself. Password. And we are going to call a function on this collection called insert1. Insert1, and then we're going to insert one object, and that's the user object. Once that is done, we are going to be sending back the details, and I'm going to also send back, because I like it, a data, and the data is the inserted user. All right, that's it. Before I let you copy this, let's check it out first. So again, let me check if my server has restarted. Yep, server is still running. So I'm going to do the same call with Postman that I've done before. I have it here already, register. I'm now going to use a very different, you know what, let's take Harry P. And then, of course, Harry at hogwarts.co.uk. And let's keep the password as it is. Let's send it. The user has been saved. Acknowledged through, and the inserted ID is this. Okay, we might get some more info, but again, this is from Mongo. I like that we have this. We have an ID, so somehow if we want to log it, we can log it. But the user has been saved. Now, the check would be here. So you have a small button here on the right side, which is refresh. If you hit this, all the collections will be refreshed. And look at here, Harry P, Harry Hogwarts. It works. So that means that not only does our register work with the database, now we can do the second part, which is to make sure our login actually functions correctly. So we're going to be tinkering with our API just a little bit, because at the moment, there is no check on the email, for example. So when I'm requesting the email, there is no double check. So people with the same email can register, which should not be okay. I can do it here, but I'll like you to try this out yourself. So again, instead of doing insert one, you can use the board game data. There is specifically a route that allows you to look for a board game based on an ID. So again, try to make a search based on email, and if the email already exists of the one you're trying to save, then throw back a message. This email does already exist. So this works. Let's go to the login part. So login, again, I'm going to get this try catch finally again. Copy paste this, because we're going to open our connection, do some stuff, catch errors and send them back, and close our connection at the end. This can now be deleted. I'm going to show you the code one more time so you can take it over for the register part. Yep. So register, we have the checks here, which have not changed, but then the try catch block is this one. So pause here, take it over, make sure you use your database name and your collection, and then we're off to the login request. Fine. Let's go to the login. Again, this will not change because we will keep checking this. And of course, check if the user is in an array. This checking will be done later. So the whole block here will be commented out. Do not delete it. Never delete code, certainly not during development. And I am going to copy paste this. I'm going to make this function asynchronous so our await statements can work. It's a login request. So what do we have with a login request? We have an email and a password. So I'm already login user. I've now created the object to compare it with. Might be easier to work than rec body and rec the request data. Retrieve the users, which is okay. And instead of course, we're not going to be inserting. We are going to be sending, we are going to be checking data. So in our case, we are going to be looking for a user that has a specific email. So again, this will be the same thing you need to do for the double checking of the email in the register one. But let's see how we do this. So if we have a collection, we need to create a query. A query is something we search for, or at least specify what we need. What we need is when the email equals login user dot email. So when the email of the object that in the collection has the same email as the one we're trying to log in with, then we are going to actually get our user. So const user equals what is it again? Collie again. Find. So we have insert one. We also have find one. So await collie dot find one. And with find one, we pass along the query. Now, if it finds a user, it will be put in here. If it does not find it, then it does not work. So again, I'm gonna delete this, and now the logic we've already written should suffice here. So I'm going to use this if statement, not the array checking, because I don't need that. Don't need the array checking. but I do need the rest of my logic. Boom. Let me check. My indentation is quite a bit correct here. So if user is found, then we can compare passwords. So again, rec body is login password of login user. So the user found in the database versus the login user we tried to log in. If it's okay, you're logged in. If it's not okay, password is incorrect. If no user is found, authentication error. So this is basically everything we already had, just with a couple of different lines of code. These three. And that's everything there is. So instead of looking for these three, the connection as well, but once you have that, you can keep reusing it. So the logic is just this part. So I'm going to give you some time to take it over. Again, from here on out, everything is the same, but the hard part is, of course, the try, connect, login user. So take it over or check if you have the same, and then we'll continue on testing this. All right, let's open up Postman and let's do our part. Now, the fun thing is I have kept coding. My server has restarted numerous times because I have NodeMon on, as you can see. So in our old case, our users would be gone, but now it's not. So if we were to check our database, Harry should still be there. Let's refresh. So Harry and Mike are still there. So we can immediately start testing the login system because we're going to get our data from the database anyway. So again, Harry, I'm going to take these because I need them to test the login system. I'm not going to do this one. I'm going to do, whoops. No, of course. You know what? I'm going to type it over. I like to test with the new object. Because that's the one that is different. We've been testing with Mike for long enough. Let's send it. Authentication was successful. Perfect. Don't forget testing. We test all scenarios. So, Harry, for those watching the movies, that should be a reference to something. No user has been found with the email. Perfect. Harry does not exist. Harry. And then the password being wrong should give us a different error. Password is incorrect. If we do T, and we're up and running. Perfect. Now, we have implemented most of the features. We've now coupled a database to it. We can clean some stuff up. Again, the logic that I used here for checking the email can be used in the register to make a double email error message. You can do that on your own. I think we have enough info here to facilitate that. And you're now ready to do the final part before extending with extra features, which is making sure your front end knows and keeps knowing that your user is logged in. So the moment you are logged in, let's save it and let's try to go to home. Where is or my login page? If I log in here, I'm just getting a console log. There's nothing in my front end that keeps me from reminding the rest of my application, hey, I am logged in, I can access certain pages. So let's try to fix that. Let's try to go to the next steps, 6 and 7, and finalize this full stack login system. I'll see you in the next video.